There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Perspective Philosophy. It's nice to be back on dead YouTube. Well, we're going to talk about that because Vegan Foot Soldier uploaded a video that caught my attention, and I was so happening to come back anyway. And I thought, what a better video to come back with than a one about zombie vegan YouTube. So essentially, is vegan YouTube dead? That's what this episode's going to be about. Hope everyone is having a lovely night, and we're gonna really just jump straight into it because I really just watched that video and I just want to talk about it. Is vegan YouTube dead? Well, Vegan Foot Soldier, if you know him, he's been on the channel a couple of times. Friend, nice guy. I think makes a pretty good argument about why vegan YouTube may be dead. I think that he's wrong, but yeah. We're going to get into it. So, his argument really is he looks back at 2014-15 to the vegan scene, which me and my girlfriend actually were part of. She ran a vegan channel, which was far more successful than this one, actually. And one of the videos, I think it was like 1 million views. 700,000. Oh, is that it? Oh, 700,000 on some of the videos. Our channel was something like 24 million views or something ridiculous. And yeah, so I was part of that scene. And so seeing that, scene be resurrected in Foot Soldier's video was, it was nostalgic. It was nice to see the raw till 4, drink sugar water till you die kind of community again, just to even reminisce at how bad it was. Because I'm not gonna lie, we were junk food vegans back then. We never, I didn't eat 30 bananas a day. Maybe 30 banana vegan milkshakes or something, I don't know, but never 30 bananas a day. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. And before obviously we get right into it, sorry I've been away, guys. Lots been going on in my life. Stuff with university that I've had to sort out, particularly with the my supervisor, unfortunately, lost his job, had been made redundant. And yeah, I've just had to try and, scramble to try and sort this out. So I'm still currently going through that. And as well, I've been making the course. As many of you who have the course will be aware, it's now live. At least part of it is now live. And it's, this is actually the last day of the sale because the pre-sale is going to end and then it's live. So it's full price. There we go. So I've been doing that and also PhD work, as you do. So, yeah. And so, yeah, jumping, from me being dead to is vegan YouTube dead? So, vegan YouTube, I don't think is what Foot Soldier characterized it as, if I'm honest. One, I think he was far too nice to old vegan YouTube. Not even rose-tinted glasses nice. In the video where he where he contrasts old vegan YouTube and vegan YouTube now, one of the things he shows is, people eating fruit, peddling and stuff, which I hated and I thought was cringy anyway. And don't get me wrong, it had some good vibes and some positive vibes. I did appreciate the community. There was a strong sense of community back then, which I really do appreciate. But he contrasts it against Unnatural Vegan. Now, Unnatural Vegan was around back then, and she was annoying me back then. So you're definitely looking through rose-tinted glasses because she didn't arrive in 2018. She was there before I was. So and she was raw, if it couldn't get any worse. So the reality of the situation is... What's that? The dog. Was this... Okay. So yeah, so as well, vegan YouTube back in the day was, this raw till 4, carb the fuck up community. Which was all, and you go to a vegan festival, and if you wanted a brownie, it was a raw brownie, and if you wanted to use non-stick pans, that was a real bad thing. And this is the kind of thing. Don't get me wrong. I think there was a lot of good stuff. Like even like Mike the Vegan came out of this time. Love Mike. You know, Hench Herbivore. He mentions Hench Herbivore. He's been around for ages. There's like obviously Vegan Gaze. She's been producing content for years. And so on. There's lots of vegan YouTubers that's been around. Now, the vegan YouTubers I care the most about aren't the ones that he showed, which are really plant-based YouTubers. Like, they're YouTubers who are like, eat bananas, and oh my god, we're going to pedal, like, round Australia, and we're going to pretend that eating 8,000 calories a day is achievable for everyone, and not just people who are doing stupid athletic events every day of their life. So, it has problems there. Now, on the other hand, there was, at the same time, Earthling Ed, Joey Carbstrong, James Aspey, the vegan activists, Bite Size Vegan, Gary Yourofsky. That's what I remember through vegan YouTube. Now, Gary left ages ago, even in the early days, because I think it was, the man's been campaigning since before, I don't know, like since before I was born. the guy's done a lot of work for veganism. Bite Size Vegan burnt herself out awfully. I think she was pulling 50, 60-hour weeks, but she produced a sick amount of content, which is still available on YouTube today. Erin Janus has had some of the most influential videos for veganism in the world. Dairy is Scary. People still hold banners for Dairy is Scary on YouTube. Earthling Ed is still going strong. And there are more vegans now than there ever has been. So when he talks about, is vegan YouTube dead? Well, maybe plant-based raw till 4, we're going to pedal everywhere, and we're going to meet up in Chiang Mai, and we're all best friends, and arguably some of us are doing very dubious things in Thailand, and then cancel culture happens, apparently, and it all goes, actually, arguably steroids and all of this, there's loads of stuff there, but that was all, it was all just an accident waiting to happen. It was just a landmine, right? People eating 30 bananas a day, people becoming unhealthy and just basically masking eating disorders and loads of other stuff, and it had nothing to do with the animals. And that's really what I want to talk about, because vegan YouTube has nothing to do with the Chiang Mai and pedaling in Thailand, and we're all going to potlucks and we're all best friends. Vegan YouTube is like Earthling Ed, who is still here. Vegan YouTube is like, even like Vegan Gains, who, like him or hate him, he's a vegan YouTuber. He cares about the animals. He produces content in relation to animal liberation. And that's what vegan YouTube is about. And this is what I really want to talk about today. And this is what I want to contrast against Foot Soldier's position. So, yeah. And it's nice to see you all in the comments. So, Bite Size Vegan. I know Bite Size Vegan and Gary are genuine stars. Like, absolutely, like, amazing. Perhaps two of the most influential people in the vegan community ever. I would say, like, truly. When I was part of this community, me and my girlfriend, when we would try and show that vegan life was more accessible, because we even thought that things were getting niched down far too much. We realized that, this raw till 4 community was, although cool, like, we thought, like, we didn't see it necessarily as imploding the way it did. What were you going to say, like, how you ate a lot of dates? Oh, you remember when you drank Gatorade that had like 10 dates in, then felt dizzy? And yeah, I remember that. And then we had that green juice, where this is like 2 fat people would try green juice, and then we're like, oh, not very well. And so we we realized that this is a community that was highly unstable. Like, it was a very niche way of living, and it was selling veganism as, like, freely would do a response video talking about animal liberation. I'm like, all right, okay, she's calling people out and she's non-apologetic. I'm not going to get mad about it. But then she would say something like, and the problem with your life is that you're not carbed. And then she'd just start screaming about carbs. And I didn't understand. I was like, why are these people so obsessed with bananas? Sweet natural living. That man looked like so emaciated. I thought he was genuinely being held captive and starved. Like, I mean, not genuinely, but he genuinely looked starved. He looked ill, like sick. And then he's telling people how to fix their lives by only eating the most high quality, like premium tropical fruit. And it's like, right, like, that's just the most non-universal thing that anyone could ever do. Just like, he picks up oranges in the supermarket and he's like, these aren't even orange. Like this is the kind of like non-vegan culture that I remember me and Laura were very much against at the time. We made junk food vegan videos, like all these foods are vegan, things that you didn't know were vegan to help vegans that were, and Laura was great. She really could predict what people, needed in terms of like things to help them in that transitional process. And obviously ethical videos, like, why is it bad? Like, what is wrong with animal agriculture? What's wrong with wool? What's wrong with, different animal products, not just like, meat, dairy, and eggs even, and things like that. And these are the kind of videos that I want to see more of. I think that the reality is that vegan YouTube's not dead. Vegan YouTube is still in its infancy because veganism is still in its infancy. We are growing more and more every year. More and more products for vegans are coming around. It's becoming more accessible and more easily understood. Veganism is, if anything, at a point in which it's the nearest thing you'll find to like a blue ocean market. It's something where you can access it, and there is so much room for growth and development because it is the next stage of ethical progression. And that's just the reality of it. Like, people might want to think of it in another way, but what veganism is the development of our ethical considerations to encompass all sentient beings. And that's all that it really can be. Debate me, bro. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. And I grinded for about 6 years and then left. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm here. I've got 76 viewers, guys. I think that's still good. Hello, everyone. And yeah, Gary changed my life too. Like, Gary Yourofsky, the greatest speech you'll ever hear, is one of the greatest speeches you'll ever hear. It really genuinely is. It's one of those things where, and you find raw expensive. Like, this is the thing. I look back at vegan YouTube, like quote unquote vegan YouTube, plant-based, like raw till fall, we're all peddling and we're all eating stupid amounts of tropical fruit YouTube, to something that has been far too expensive. Like, I remember Fully Raw Christina doing a budget video where she's like, if I can eat for $20 a day, then anyone can. And she was doing like £200 raw food hauls. And I remember my girlfriend tried 1 day of raw. It was like 1 day where we just wanted to see what is it actually like to try and eat raw. And the amount of money that it costs to eat raw is disgusting, even besides the health negatives and clear eating disorder connections. And even, like, controversially, I will say, I'm not going to say who it is, but a prevalent raw vegan YouTuber who was tagging our videos anorexic. I won't be naming names, but clearly, pro Anna and stuff like that kind of tags to try and grab people with eating disorders. The connection was definitely there, and they even knew it. So yeah, it's insane. It genuinely is insane. Can you explain your argument for moral objectivism for dum-dums like me who don't know philosophical lingo? Okay, ethics are objective because our understanding of self is objective and universal, and we all must want some measure of happiness or goodness on an individual or collective level. So the universal that is the self-understanding is something that is not contingent upon the subjectivity of an individual. So I hope that explains, well, at least why it's not subjective anyway. But check out Objective Ethics video. Gary's anti-Palestine point of view. I have no idea about Gary's anti-Palestine point of view. I don't even want to talk about that. Like, I guess I probably should, because that whole Palestine-Israel thing's kicked right off again. And I will say this: I just want people to stop dying on both sides, please. Can we just de-escalate? It's like, to be honest, I want to say this. I think that Hamas and the Israeli government are disgraceful for escalating a comment. Oh my God, I've spent too much time on YouTube. Escalating a conflict that has essentially caused innocents to get caught between. I don't think that necessarily people want to be fighting and killing each other, and I think that it's always the perpetuation of power interests on one side or the other, and especially these nationalistic ones. So yeah, they both make me sick, and you should be very ashamed of yourselves. And this has been going on since my granddad was there in 1948. So I don't think I'm going to solve it on YouTube today. But yeah, I don't know about Gary's position on that. Well, look who it is. Yes, hello. Nice to be back. Thumbs the vid up, folks. What are you talking about? Vegan YouTube's dead. You're supporting a lost cause. What else? Probably not Snow. I don't think that's the best analogy. I'd say that it's because like that would probably be more like Kantian theories of judgment. Like that would be epistemologically. It would be like what you endorse versus what actually is, and yeah. Nice camera. Thanks very much. Thanks. Lewis, do we eat white sugar? Like, do I eat white sugar? I think like 90% of my diet is refined sugar, fat, and like I don't know how I'm still here. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like the only reason vegan YouTube's still alive is because we're gonna find out how long vegan YouTube lives in relation to my life expectancy, because it's not gonna be very long, guys. Would you be up for a little vegan v vegan crop deaths though debate? Yeah. Go on then. Thank you. This is probably the healthiest I get. This is great. This is only 94 calories, but it's like, it's actually this big, and I'm gonna eat about 5 of them. So yeah. Bring in the what are they called? The Roloxia or whatever, the Greek pastries. What are my thoughts on Vegan Gains? I don't know, man. Vegan Gains is a cool guy. I think he's made some really great points for veganism. I think he's done a lot of damage for veganism in the past with his threatening Repsion was a bad one. I remember the video. I remember us watching the video where he was just talking about how not only just the knife threat with Repsion, but then there was the one where he said he would just wanted to murder babies. That was something. I'm not gonna lie. Richard, I'm glad you've calmed down. Jasmine's done you a hell of a lot of favors, because my God, you were an angry boy. Like he needed to calm down. That was unresolved anger issues. Yeah, like I don't know. He's done some really great debates. I think that his take on ethics is absolutely wrong, and that leads him down a lot of rabbit holes. And I don't like his approach necessarily in debates, but he's also done a lot of good. Like in nutrition debates, he sometimes absolutely slams it, man. Like he brings it home, and no problem. Like he just points out some of the obvious flaws in people's arguments, and you got to admire that. And he's done a lot of good work. Yeah. Yes, I am alive. Absolutely. Holy hell. Oh, the internet can totally bring out the worst sides in world. Would it be fun if it didn't? But I was even saying this on the Patreon, saying like I've avoided YouTube a lot, like except for hyper academic research YouTube, where I'm like watching lecturers from Cambridge talk about philosophy and stuff, because political YouTube at the minute has just made us want to cry. Like, you're talking about, like, is vegan YouTube dead? As soon as the elections end in the United States, political YouTube just continues to pretend that the elections never ended. And and that's all it is. It's like, well, what's politics in the USA? Vegans don't die. That's right, because it's vegan superpowers. We're invincible. We can't die. That's right. What do you think of the Labour theory of value? I'm not a fan. I know, I'll let go of the mic. Yeah, I do cringe when Vegan Gains debates ethics, but I really feel like that's like, come on, like the guy for someone who's non-philosophically trained and has such a broad, like, field of skills. Like he's got a broad a broad skill set. His philosophy's not awful, but the baby smashing thing, I don't know if it was satire, man. Like the guy really struggles, I think, with children. Like he kind of said that he didn't like, and it was still quite like not the best to have representing veganism, if I'm honest. But at the same time, like his other content was great, and I mean, even he's just worst of the fitness industry was sick, so good. Bring it back, Richard, please. Please bring back worst of the fitness industry. Stop putting beards and stuff on again. You went back in time. Anyway, PB, do you think you compare growth of other social movements like anti-homophobia, anti-racism with veganism? Anti-homophobia and anti-racism aren't social justice movements. That people pretending they're social justice movements. Honestly, I mean, do you mean contemporary ones or do you mean past ones? Because like obviously anti-racism and anti-homophobia were like huge movements. But the ones that happened like last year and this year are people pretending to make movements when it's actually the contemporary position held by the majority of people because of the work of like 2 generations of people campaigning their absolute hearts out and facing violence and like turbulent politics. Like there are still some social justice movements and like humans that like for humanity that are very much in their infancy, and even some that just need fleshed out and still have like still work to be done. For example, Palestine Gaza conflict, there's still a lot to go on there. In terms of bringing that to an end. There's worker exploitation, sexism globally, especially, and even there is still racism, homophobia, all of that stuff still goes on to varying degrees depending on where you're from, and still has political and social and individual ramifications that need to be questioned, and I would never deny that. But I think a lot of movements now are acting like, say, anti-fascism is my favorite, because anti-fascism has been the standard position in Britain really since like the rejection of people like Robert Mosley in like the 1920s. So like and then we fought a war with the fascists, and the British fascists became one of the most unpopular groups in the country. And so when you say you're anti-fascist, Jonathan Pye actually made a joke about this. He's like it's not something special. He's like, that is the standard. If you aren't anti-fascist, you're a bad person, And this is the reality of it. So like the historical ones. All right, you meant the historical ones. That's fair enough. Like I think that does it compare to the historical ones? I think that it does, to be honest. I think that it really does. I think that one of the and you've got to remember that like obviously times change and the way that growth and these things can occur will be different. It was different for every movement, but the campaign for equality for women, for example, was not like a straight shot from the suffrage movement. The suffrage movement was like the suffragettes faced incredible amounts of discrimination, to the point in which they were like being like physically assaulted, and there's like reports of like awful stuff, verbal abuse and so on. Vegans don't necessarily receive that much hate, which is quite cool. And with anti-racist movements, there was the very much like especially anti like slavery and so on like that. It took hundreds of years to really get where we are, from the points of people campaigning for equality. I mean, in terms of slavery, anti-slavery started like was it like anti-slavery I think really started like late 17th century, like 18th century, and then really took to this point for people of color to be recognized as being equal. Well, maybe not this point, but at least like the civil rights movement in the 60s really started to ramify things. And before that, you had like other civil rights campaigns. And I mean, like, to be honest, like people forget that there was unsuccessful social justice movements in relation to even anti-racism and anti-inequality movements. For example, there was what's he called? Very famous black civil rights activist for the United States. What's he called? What's he called? He had a very terrible idea, to be entirely honest with you. I think that his approach was entirely wrong, but still a pioneer. What was he called? No. My God, what was the man called? When I see his name, I'll know it straight away. That's the worst part. I'll just do it by the... Right. Marcus Garvey, that's it. Right, the Black Star Line and all that. I really don't think that was a very good approach. And then that faced, racism, which actually made it less effective anyway. Like, for example, paying twice as much for the ships than they necessarily should have, and so on. And the leadership, I think, was flawed, and I think the strategy was very much flawed. But at the same time, it shows that there was a movement there. People were motivated to try and, end, exploitation and inequality towards African Americans, and yet it didn't really go anywhere until it got picked back up by civil rights activists later on, and the sentiment never died. And I think that's what we've got to remember. Like, veganism's going to go through these kind of ups and downs, and we're going to slowly move towards the goal of equality. It's not going to be like a straight shot. No one should ever think, oh no, well, what are you talking about? I didn't get more views on my YouTube video. Oh no, then I guess veganism is over. And I wouldn't even do that to Foot Soldier. I don't even think he meant anything like that. I think he's like, all right, vegan YouTube is dead, and that what he meant is that community from 2015. Welcome back to hell. Love it, guys. Glad to be here. What'd you say, Jonas? Please respond. What am I responding to, Jonas? You vegan gains, ask yourself, I'm a third of my favorite YouTubers. AY and vegans are for the insane. I don't appreciate that usage of the word autism, but you and Earth and Ed for something lighter. Keep doing you. I appreciate the support. It's not about autism, man. I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. But they've got some pretty I think I know what you mean. They're pretty intense, over aggravated debates is what you mean. Yeah. I know I get it. The very, very intense debates. You're alive. How can you still be vegan and still cause suffering by being alive? Exactly. I don't know why I'm still here. Why are any of us here? Were we born to simply suffer? Jonathan Pye is Bay, though. Yeah, that's. Am I going to talk about Bernardo? Am I going to talk to Bernardo Kastrup about idealism and veganism? I'll talk to anyone about veganism. I'm not talking about Martin Luther King, man, or Malcolm X, the famous ones. It was even though Marcus Garvey's pretty famous, it was just totally slipped my mind. Martin Luther King didn't do anything wrong. Martin Luther King is the boy. If we are going to emulate anyone in history and about civil rights movements and civil rights activism, emulate Martin Luther King, because not only was he the most successful, and I know, the Black Panthers had that place, and I know Malcolm X had that place, although I really think their messages were unbelievably wrong and arguably unethical in many ways, especially advocating for, ones who are advocating for black supremacy and, direct action through violence. But they had that place, the coffee mornings and stuff. I get it, it helps, and they definitely helped grow awareness and create a solidified community. And veganism has that same sort of different base. I don't agree with direct action movements, although I feel why they would be interested in it. because I just think that it ends up doing more harm than good. But yeah, like it's one of those things where like if we're going to emulate anyone, it should be Martin Luther King. His understanding of discipline and how it genuinely structures an individual's, consciousness, like especially in Birmingham, right? Like having it so that on international news, the black population could be seen to be the victims of a racist and oppressive state did an incredible amount of political pressure to the United States. It showed them up on the political scene. It was genuinely a stroke of genius. I mean, even like the orchestration of like the Rosa Parks as like scenario as like this big event, I'm pretty sure was Martin Luther King's idea. Like, love the guy, genuine genius, like in every sense of the word. Do I have an argument against the Labour theory of value? I don't think that it's not that I have an argument against the Labour theory of value. It's more of the fact that after reading the Labour theory of value in Marx, I just don't think he substantiated it. He showed that Labour itself is the foundation of some value production, which is uncontroversial in terms of economics. And then he showed that, I think argued well that private property was, people before him showed that private property was linked to labor and how, the production of a product and labor were tied together. And so that led to the conception of property. And I think that he's right in saying that you're being exploited when someone isn't paying the exchange value of the product that you've created. And I think that his arguments on alienation are 100% correct, at least very correct. I think that all of that's the case, but I think the Labour theory of value conflates the value, the market value of the thing, of the product, of the object, and the constitution of private property, like the substantiation of private property. Like private property, yeah, like you if you're not getting the market value for what it is, the product, then yeah. But like no matter how much labor you put in, and I know that it didn't necessarily just mean labor in terms of how hard you are working, but even abstract labor in the first place is only valuable in relation to human life and the benefits that an individual will perceive from obtaining the object. So abstract labor can't be the foundation of value. It is the organization of it is the foundation of private property. And it is the and that's it really. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like labor beyond that point is really it's valuable. It's valued by agents. It's not valuable in itself. It's valued against human life and animal life and sentient life. This evaluative mechanism that exists within us to understand and appreciate is where ethical value comes from. But Karl Marx wouldn't have been able to see that because he was a materialist and not an idealist. And I think that was his main flaw there. So yeah, I don't really think that the Labour theory of value has been really substantiated very well. At least nothing I've read has. So yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about crop death sometime. Akami, I'll be game. The best Phil streamer's back. Oh, wow. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Am I not the only philosophy streamer? I thought I was the only one. There are other philosophy streamers. Where have I gone in the comments? I'm vegan and had several near death experiences due to vegan B12. The thing, like, checkmate vegans. Well, that's exactly it. Like, what I do is, as a vegan, you see, I don't know if you notice, I'm in this white background. That's because I'm actually in heaven. I died of a B12 deficiency many years ago, and I exist as the ghost that haunts vegan YouTube. And in reality, like, B12, you can get through something and all that. It's kind of common sense at this point. But the thing is that I think, there was issues with old vegan YouTube, actually, of people not taking B12 and stuff, and it was just a mess. We're not even going to talk about how old vegan YouTube is. There was more problems than there was benefits in my opinion. And there was some good stuff, and there's still good stuff. Where have I gone? Did you see the guy who waterboarded himself? I did not see the guy jumping into a pool wearing a Spider-Man costume. And what would Hegel say about it? I don't know what Hegel would say about that, actually. Maybe I think Hegel probably would see Spider-Man. He thought heroes were something that was a negative to a society, and that heroism itself was the production of a norm, not the constitution of something that was good. So it was like the production of the right, and then we'll progress past heroism. The right of heroes, as he calls it. So you would probably see Spider-Man as an evil vigilante bad guy, and say that this is unsurprising because of the irony of the subjective. In thinking that he's doing the right thing, he accidentally nearly kills himself, and it's just what was going to happen because he's a dumb hero. So yeah, I think that's probably what Hegel might say. Do you grow any fruits or vegetables? I do not grow fruits or vegetables, but I do. I was talking to Tomato. I need to actually. Oh my god, what have I just done? But I need to probably do that. I just have hardcore ADHD. Probably that is probably true. Do I watch anime? I'm not gonna lie. I watch some. I've watched a little bit of anime, but like some of it I find like, so for example, the anime I like is really probably like the least hardcore anime ever. It's like Dragon Ball Z. And I recently bought Dragon Ball Z Kakarot when it was on sale for like £15, I think I got it for. So it was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. But I just like Dragon Ball Z. I like One Punch Man. I like bit of Avatar. Does Beyblade count? Like, I don't know, man. Have you heard about the research where the carrying capacity of 10 different diets was simulated? If yes, what do you think of it, where it say that there's still reasons for veganism besides morals? Well, I don't think that veganism can be argued for anything except for an ethical position. And I think that that's the reality. I don't think it makes sense to talk about like making like essentially like, ethics pertaining to behavior. Choosing one behavior over another is an ethical question. And when you're saying besides morals, what you mean is either like, for health, which is ethical in relation to, an individual's well-being, or you mean environment, which is in relation to, the well-being of humans or animals living in the environment, or you might think that plants and so on have a measure of ethical value, like Leopold. And or it's or I don't know, something like religious or spiritual, which again relates to like, what is the good life and how should we live it, and that's the reality of situations. So for me, the only argument that really matters is ethics, is the ethical arguments. It's anything beside anything that tries to argue for veganism from another stance, as long as veganism is healthy and can be done to adequately to a rational, like it can be actually done, like it's possible and practicable, then hell, man, like you should be doing it. That's the crack. When's the Vegan Gains Part 2 debate? When Vegan Gains decides that he's actually going to debate us on this. Because he said, actually, to be honest, he said that he would debate us, well, talk to us about it. And I could provide him sources on private property and theories of private property because, well, he didn't have a clue. Really, bless him. Dude, you convinced me to become vegan. Nice, man. Nice. Thanks. Actually, really nice to hear. Destiny versus Richard Wolf. Go. If not, reaction in live now. PP hands. PP hands. No. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't watched the Richard Wolf Destiny debate. I've heard a lot of bad things about the Richard Wolf Destiny debate. It's gonna be a shit show, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm gonna have to do it, but it's one of those things like where if like I don't know, man. I heard Richard Wolff got like did really badly, and then somebody else told us that Richard Wolff actually did really well on an academic level, but was nigh on unintelligible. And so I don't know. I'll watch the debate. I mean, don't get me wrong. Thoughts before going in. Destiny's gonna have better rhetoric. It's what he does on a day-to-day basis. Richard Wolff isn't on YouTube debating people day in day out. Destiny's got spicy as fuck rhetoric, and that doesn't mean anything in terms of like actual like justification, right? Like it just means that he's a good debater, and I think everyone has to admit, like, you know, he fucking debates day in and day out. If you get that much practice and you're a smart guy, you're going to become a really good debater, and I think he has. But it doesn't mean that he's right. Like, for example, he debates on veganism, and he's wrong about that all the time. So, there's that. But I think Richard Wolff always talks at an audience. He's like telling you. He's like, wait a minute, I'll see if I can do it. How's Richard Wolff like always doing it? He's like he's always got like this kind of face on. He's like, well, you know, actually, let's see. What's something that Richard Wolff says? It would be like, it would be like, he'd be like, in the past, we had lords and serfs. Now we have employers and employees. And that's kind of the Richard Wolff vibe that I think, you know, it sometimes does hammer home these points, but other times it makes them come across as absolutely insane. And it's like, Richard, it's okay. No one's necessarily mad at you and telling you that you're wrong, but he's kind of coming from a position where people are, you know, in economics, probably think he's a madman. So, you know, I think there's that to consider in terms of his rhetoric, but, you know, in terms of his economic arguments, I'm looking forward to hearing them. I am really looking forward to hearing them. But I've heard that, was it like Roma? Is it Roma from Yale is the better economist? But I don't know. So I have to check that out. PP from heaven, you said. Now that explains the white background. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have risen. Hegel would say I was fat. Hegel probably would say I was fat. But you know, that's the man's true. The man's honest. Would you be down to talk to Magnus Vinding? I hope I'm saying that right. He's the co-founder for the Center of Reducing Suffering and wrote the book Suffering Focused Ethics. Absolutely, I'd be definitely game to talk about someone who wants to reduce suffering. It'd be interesting. Sounds very utilitarian. But yeah, I'm 100% game. My brain has actually enough processing power to run perfect simulation of Hegel, and he says based. I don't believe Hegel would ever say based about anything. Nothing is absolute. Nothing is good. Lewis asked about Bernard Kastrup. He is one of the most relevant modern metaphysical idealists. Maybe I should ask, would you be willing to reach out to him, set up a discussion or debate? Yeah, probably. I don't know what he says, so I don't know if I'll be debating him. You know, well, I'll definitely try and convince him of veganism. That's something. Did I see Destiny's debate on the Labour theory of value with Jack Anstrike? I'm not going to watch anything with Jack Anstrike in it, if I'm honest. I don't want to get into the drama or anything, but like, you know, I know he says it's a joke and stuff, but like he sexualized a child. Like, I said, like, what did he say? Like, he never sexualized any particular child, but like, you know, he said that he would accept sexual acts with an 11-year-old and stuff. And this isn't like hidden information. Says it's a joke. Can't be sure. Wouldn't allow him near my kids. And yeah, that's just that. I'm not really going to get like controversial with that, but I don't really give him any attention. And yeah, I just kind of keep me distance on that. So yeah. The stream only just started for you. Oh no, Sergio. you'll be able to go back. We've got to go back. I talked to my more realist vegan ANCAP friend, and he said, "Wow, my God, that's. I mean, apart from the cap bit at the end, that's starkly similar." And he said he needed more preparation before having a debate with you. All right, cool. I'm game. Just time and place, man. Time and place. How have I been, PP? I feel like it's been a while. Thank you, Mark. It's nice to hear from you. Glad to see you around. Yeah, I've been up and down. Stressed with work a lot, but also managed to produce some, I think, really high quality lectures for the course. So that's pretty cool. Done an incredible amount of research to do it. I ended up like stressing out on that, like becoming almost obsessive, making sure that I understood like the primary thinkers, like to a point in which I think I probably may have went overkill on some of the lectures, but hopefully the feedback will like let us know. But I really wanted to nail down the concepts so that I could convey them, and also like convey the language and explain it in the thinkers' terms to really try and get me students to understand the thinkers themselves, like and the position that they're coming from. Because I think it's so easy to misinterpret or perhaps say something that would otherwise lead people down the wrong path. So I've really put a lot of work in research and the development of the course. So yeah, that stressed us out, but at the same time, kind of gratifying. Yeah, you should watch Chinese anime on Marx and Engels. I don't know if I want to do that. Do I believe time travel is unethical? That's not even, do I believe that time travel is possible? It's like, it is possible, but is it right? Which way? Time travel to the future, is that unethical? I don't think so. I don't see a real issue with that. I mean, if you want to circle a black hole and, get further ahead in the future, like go to the year 3000 kind of thing, and find out if your great granddaughter is pretty fine. That's what you do. But the time travel to the past, well, it's whether it's possible and whether it just creates a because it's whether it would actually just create either something like a split in time, and whether it's actually time travel to the past. That's like kind of contentious. A lot of people say that it would really not be, you would just split time and you would create a new timeline where you traveled back and changed the course of history. Well, not necessarily. Like, I don't think it's necessarily unethical but like the unpredictable nature of things maybe could create some devastating consequences. But then, like, look, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow anyway. So it's like if you could walk into a room and it'd be in the 1920s and you could give them like better technology and stuff, would that be okay? Probably not. Like, you probably, like, it depends on what you give them, depends on how you influenced reality. Are you necessarily doing anything wrong? No, not necessarily though. I don't think it's necessarily unethical. It could be. I mean, like, if you go back in time and you make sure the Nazis win World War II, then yes, it's unethical. But if you go back in time and prevent Hitler's birth, and then like that Stephen Fry book where it leads to the creation of a new supervillain who then uses Jewish minds to create the atom bomb and win World War II, and then exterminates the Jews after World War II, then yes, it's still unethical, but you wouldn't have known that, and I don't think that's necessarily your responsibility. So, yeah. Yeah. I hope that answers that question. Would you say that combat sports are unethical? Honestly, I've had this like discussion before, and I'm not sure. I think there's limits to consent. I think that you can't consent to kill yourself, like, for example, unless like euthanasia or something, like there is, like, unless we agree that it is rational to end your life narrative there. Could I make an argument that combat sports may produce a greater overall life narrative? Perhaps, but then I think that one of the main issues is like perhaps like some of the damage that really can be caused by combat sports. So like a battle to the death, I think, is unethical. I would argue that's unethical. Boxing or MMA, I think MMA, like UFC, arguably unethical. I saw someone get that like skull dented in and stuff from like a knee. like a flying knee. That stuff's not cool. That shouldn't that you cannot consent to that. I would say. But boxing, like maybe ethical, but the sustained damage, to your head, perhaps leading to like neurological disorders. Well, it's contentious. I can't really give you a straight up answer. It's something I have to research more into and understand the empirics of it as well. So I don't want to say like it's definitely ethical or definitely unethical, because I don't necessarily even know the empirical consequences of combat sports to the point in which I could give like a definitive yes or no. So sorry about that, but yeah, that's the best you got. Should the physical emergent property of pain be taken? Well, why do you say that like it's a physical emergent property of pain? You've already loaded the language. You've already assumed that pain is physically emergent and is explainable in physical causal terms. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it can be demonstrated in physical causal terms, like, the firing of a neuron and so on like that. But the experience of pain, like what pain is, I think is separate from the particles, and the experience of, like, as you say, the particles of spin. Like, is it the neurons firing and so on, the neurochemical response? It is the conscious awareness of a state of being, I would argue, and I think that is separate from understanding it as in necessarily physical causal terms. I'd say that the physical causal explanation of pain is post hoc anyway. If you ask like a neuroscientist, like, how do they register what pain is, what they do is they look to the responses of an individual who's, or it's supposed to be, like, psychological experimenters and stuff. They look at, like, they know something's causing pain by the response. If you, like, numb someone, and they'll go like, do you feel that? Like, and then, like, they're working out if it fires, and that's how they associate the connection of a neurological event and the experience by essentially analyzing the experience connected to the event. They ask you, did you feel pain at the same time as this was happening? And that's how we essentially establish the causal connection. So really, pain as an experience was a priori to our prior to the knowledge of the research into, like, the physical causal aspects of pain. So yeah, welcome back. Thanks, man. I'll definitely address President Sunday's video on this. I was in the comments on one of them. I was like, oh, if you got like questions or something, like if you want us to answer, I'm happy to do it, So yeah, like, I might make a video, but I said that I would talk to him if he wants to talk, if he still doesn't understand my position. So yeah, like, President Sunday, if you want to have a conversation about ethics, I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it, man. Who is Thomas Shelby? I don't even know I've never watched Peaky Blinders. My God, will people stop saying I look like Cillian Murphy? You're not the first person that's done this, man. Like, this has happened loads. Like, and I've put on considerable amount of weight, so I don't even have the gaunt face anymore. But I don't see the resemblance, man. I don't think I look like Cillian Murphy. But if I was going to be compared to a Cillian Murphy character, please compare me to Cillian Murphy in Batman Begins with Scarecrow, because that's the best one. So I love the thumbnail of the stream. Thanks, man. I had to. It had to happen. I thought that meat would be the hardest challenge of being vegan, but it's dairy. What are you talking about, meat and dairy? The hardest challenge about being vegan is putting up with non-vegans telling you that you're going to die, or that you're an idiot, or that, why did you do that? Like, the social aspects of being vegan are way harder than changing your diet. I can go to Tesco and grab some Applewood smoked vegan cheese and some Richmond vegan sausages, right? Being vegan is easy as fuck. Like, easy. Like, absolutely easy, until someone's like, well, why are you doing that? And then you've got to have a conversation with them, and then they feel offended because you've told them you're vegan, and then they're like, well, it's not for everyone, and you're actually wrong. So yeah. How do you respond to someone who says everything is subjective? I would say, well, language couldn't be, or that wouldn't make sense. So yeah. Um, I thought that meat would be the hardest challenge, but yeah, I just read that. Sorry. Thoughts on surveillance capitalism? I think it's dreadful, but but you know, say no to those cookies. You know, like I don't know, man. There's nothing that you can really do. Richard didn't really engage with the arguments and just lectured. I kind of expected that. He did that in it was kind of the style of one of the debates he had with a capitalist a long time ago. Although he's like lecturing his position, I think I find very interesting. Richard Wolff, like in the debate I watched him have a while ago, it was like capitalist versus socialist, and there were two university professors. I can't remember who the capitalist university professor was. They both gave like a lecture style kind of debate, and it is quite like an academic way of debating. It's just really just stand, you read your arguments, and you know that's then the other person reads their arguments, and there's very little kind of engagement. Maybe in philosophy it's a bit different. Like you got like the Chomsky-Foucault debate, for example, where they're like literally like just talking. But yeah, I think that it can happen like that. So maybe Richard, I don't know necessarily if Richard's being like doing the like wrong thing. He's just maybe used to a different style of debating. Certainly not used to debating on YouTube in 2021. So what convinced me was your argument that the most trivial desire's taste shouldn't override the most fundamental desire's life of an animal. Well, that was actually Peter Singer. So well done, Peter Singer. I'm glad that he's had an influence through me to you. Great impression. Thanks, guys. Socialism is when the government does stuff. Unfortunately, that's basically what Foot Soldier thinks of socialism. I mean, because he comes from a very Austrian, perspective, and I think Richard Wolff, tries to update and I think Foot Soldier made a good point about this, is like, in terms of, updating the economic position on socialism, but the political debate and the philosophical debate on socialism is considerably different from the economic debate on socialism. Like the terms are used in the same way. Sorry, the terms appear to be similar but are distinctly different. They mean different things. Socialism is not the same thing in economics when it's discussed a lot of the time as it is in politics when it's discussed. If I talk about, like, for example, in Foot Soldier's definition in a lot of economics, like, for example, in Austrian economics, arguably, the United States is a socialist country. Now, that seems absolutely insane. I'm like, what are you talking about? The United States is a socialist country. But it's in the specific context of how they're defining that word and using it within that language game, right? In terms of politics, the United States is not a socialist country. But, it is... so it is actually really contentious, like, what it means. Where have I gone? I just managed to like lose exactly where I want. With Riley Grace on veganism, I'd talk to anyone on veganism, man. I'm definitely game to talk to anyone on veganism. Oh, Tomato, nice to see you here. Doing a video again, man. Yeah, man. Repeat your lectures on YouTube. Well, I'm not going to do that. I don't really think I'll be respecting myself or the people who paid for the course. I would say that I'm approaching, I wouldn't say being an expert, because I actually ended up watching experts on the people that I've been researching. And I'm not going to lie, they know, just like, for example, they'll be talking about what Hume did in his spare time. They'll be like, oh, so when Hume was in France and he was talking to like French ladies, there were like French people talking about how, and then they're saying like, they were saying this about Hume. They were like, and it's like, what? How do you even know this? Like, it's like, that's time travel where they've just went back to like France and they're just like, oh yeah, so like I was talking to Lord David, and this is the kind of understanding, like the intimacy they have with some of these thinkers is unbelievable. Like they've read everything on these thinkers, and they've just like, maybe non-literally because it's so much literature, but a lot. They've read a disgusting amount. And yeah, it's I wouldn't say like it depends on what you define as an expert. That's the reality of the situation. Oh, wait a minute. I need to quickly turn off that nightlight because everything's just went orange. Right, 1 second. Okay. I have read Capital. I didn't agree with the start of Capital Brainstorm. I didn't finish Capital, if I'm honest. I've read parts of Capital. Like reading like Capital in its entirety, like even for me, like I've read Hegel, like a lot of Hegel in his entirety, and you know it's a challenge, but I'm interested, so I care. Capital, I didn't necessarily there's some things that just didn't interest us, and so keeping me attention was just for the length. I think that it's honestly, I think that it could have been said a lot quicker. I think that it's a very big book that didn't need to be so big. But I think it's comprehensive, and I think that's what he was going for. So when I'm talking about Karl Marx and Capital, I don't think I'm certainly not going to think I could do it better. But I think that his position on abstract labor and the labor theory of value, which is at the very start of Capital, pretty much, by the way, guys, is I wasn't convinced. So yeah. What do I think about the UFOs report? Oh my god, that's been the weirdest thing I think since I've been gone. Like, I went away and now aliens exist. What the fuck? I disappear for a little while and now I have fucking like Barack Obama's like, oh yeah, so aliens exist. I mean, that's not what actually happened, but you know, Russell Brand's loving this stuff. I do watch a bit of Russell Brand actually. I think I've talking about like political YouTube, and I did watch the whole Dominic Cummings thing going on. But that's been the most interesting thing. Like whether UFOs, watching like whether like we don't actually understand how these objects are moving. These seem to defy our notions of physics and stuff, which is like kind of like what You're telling me that aliens exist now? It's like, am I being distracted from something that's actually important? Or are they just getting ready to go, yeah, aliens exist. We've actually been talking to them since like the 60s and we didn't think you were ready. And but we really want to sell stuff to aliens now. So, and we want some of that alien money. You know, I don't know, like interstellar markets or something. The most important thing is for us all to return the Infinity Stones. Absolutely. What about American football? Well, American football, I think it's the same thing with I don't know enough about like the dangers of American football. It seems pretty freaking dangerous at times. Same with rugby. Should you not time travel just because you have no knowledge of how things could turn out? Well, it depends, because you don't necessarily know how anything would turn out necessarily, but then you do understand you arguably understand far more about the past than you do about the future. So arguably you'd have the best chance of kind of honing the progress of time. But then when everyone starts time traveling, then people will time travel when you've time traveled, and then it's just going to get messy, because then like you're going to have timelines where people have time traveled to undo the time travel that's happened, and not realizing that you can't undo it, have only created another timeline where it's either been undone or made worse. And to be honest, I'll just ban it, because I think that people will just do dumb stuff, and that's the real issue. And we're just going to be producing entire worlds of bad stuff. Which you can't provide a rational argument, because you can't say that MH workers should judge who have financially vested interest in saying it's always irrational. It stems from theology. I have no idea if that was for me there. Welcome back. Thank you very much, Sovereign Studies. Nice to be back, man. Is pain actual qualia or just an epiphenomena then? I don't know. I'm gonna have to have a think, man. I actually have to have a think. I think I would say like pain, if I'm honest, I think it's Is it qualia? No, I wouldn't say it's qualia. I think the experience of pain, maybe. The conception of pain, no. No. Have I heard of machine ethics? I have not. Combat sports are unethical. Is watching them unethical? Well, if they're unethical and you are supporting them and you're continuing the propagation of them, then yes, watching them would be unethical. Unless it was like combat sports of the past. Like I think maybe watching Muhammad Ali fight or something like that, which I do actually. I love watching like the old school boxing. I don't think that's necessarily bad because they can't like they can't make more of them. So but then it could also progress the norm of thinking that it's acceptable in the first place. Thoughts on the YouTube channel Midwestern Marks? I've never heard of them. Yeah, you have the same serial killer eyes as Killian. Cool, man. You ever gonna finish that Foucault series? Yes, I will. I promise. Did you ever talk to Christopher Belshaw? I think you told me that you were going to reach out. I'm sorry I never got around to reviewing this paper due to its anti-vegan position. I don't think I did. I'll have to check that out. Killian Murphy looks like PP. Absolutely. I was technically, I was born first. I wasn't really born first, but he's Hollywood famous, so he always looked younger. Explain a body without organs right now. Don't dumb it down. Explain an organ without a body. It has pipes. Haha. Sorry. I'll see. I'm going to see myself out. What's your opinions on post-structuralism? Like, I would probably take the Lacanian response. Like, there is no need for a meta language because all language is object language. So, I think that it's a misinterpretation of how we need to understand ourselves. Like, trying to go beyond to seek something that's, outside of our structure of analysis in order to create a structure which explains this structure, misunderstands that actually this structure is referential to a rational foundation within reality. The reason within the object, the logos, if you will. And I think that the reason that they look for that is from flawed reasoning. It's from a form of usually extreme skepticism, especially on the existential / absurdism side of things. Yeah. I have like 4 books on the go, and it's hard to fit in so much reading. I know the feeling. Oh my god, I'm trying to find time to fit anything next to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban at the minute. Does he want to be compared with or without the mask on? Look, you can compare me to Scarecrow in any way you want. I'm glad a vegan finally acknowledges the social change aspect and not that it's easy. Well, yeah, it is easy. And I will say that, but yeah, the social change is the hardest part. Don't back down to peer pressure, man. Can you explain the law behind PP hands? There is a lot of law behind PP hands. There's a lot of law behind PP, big PP, P-peeps. There's a whole array of law that has yet to be truly delved into. The harder part about being vegan is finding the vegan beers. No. Barnivore, man. Barnivore.com. There's I've even submitted emails to help people on that. It's really easy to find vegan beers. I was at a cask beer place not too long ago, and almost every beer was vegan. And then to find out if it wasn't vegan, all I had to go is it unrefined, and is it unrefined and unfiltered? All of the beers were unrefined and unfiltered, and say, okay, do any of them contain animal products? Some of them contained lactose, so I didn't buy those ones. And that's really it. So, my grandfather is a butcher, but I'm a vegan. Lol, the irony. He wants to take over his shop when he retires. Very awkward for me. Look, I think as well, you can even say, I think we can divide it into 2 points. Obviously, ethics have progressed, and you would see that is unethical, and you want to just maybe even say that, look, I think that this is wrong. but you don't think he's a bad person. And I think that he's shown himself, and even say like, look, I think that like you say that you love him, that it's clearly a very heartfelt gesture. Like he's trying to leave you a business, and he cares about you, and he cares about your well-being, and make that clear. But I imagine that is awkward, and I imagine that's difficult. But hold strong. You can't do something that's unethical. And look, you could even take over the business if you wanted to and convert it to a vegan butcher. Like you could try and do something like that if that's what you wanted to do. See about how you could move the business into an ethical business, like convert it, like keep the family business alive, but let it progress the generations. But yeah, like do what you have to do. Don't obviously kill any animals, and good luck, man. Another one of those awkwards. Have you read this book? Question. Have you read Judith Butler's Force of Nonviolence? No, I haven't. I haven't read Judith Butler's Force of Nonviolence. Sorry about that. Veggie Brews is a great app. I've never heard of Veggie Brews. I'll check that out. Could you talk to him about what makes you think that veganism will be necessary in socialism? Talk a bit about what you make veganism will be necessary in socialism. Okay, so I would say that veganism is an equality movement. So if we don't necessarily understand equality and the foundations of ethics, then when we are approaching socialism, we are already doing it wrong. We are trying to essentially alleviate material conditions rather than understanding why those material conditions, economically even, are occurring, understanding our responsibility within the market, how we should behave with one another in terms of our ethical responsibility to one another, what it means to be ethical in the first place, and the consideration of the other, and respect for the self. These are all ethical concepts that are tied heavily into veganism and every equality movement, veganism just being the next stage in terms of this development ethic. Also, it progresses individual social responsibility, understanding that my purchases have overall consequences in relation to a market structure which validate a certain way of life in terms of production. Like we are validating a productive method when we purchase these products, and if we can take the responsibility, if we can boycott unethical products and prevent them from being produced, especially if we can have and support something that is ethical to take its place, especially, then we have the possibility of a political movement which allows for for an ethical marketplace, which is essentially the foundation of market socialism. You need people to want to do ethical things for ethical things to happen. You're not going to have veganism or socialism if you tell people to do them. You can't force moral progress. You can't force ethical progress. It has to happen organically. And this is why Slavoj Žižek says, the first act of violence, needs to be against ourselves. We need to destroy our notions of the self, which have clouded us and caused us to be this kind of capitalist, self-satisfying, egoistic culture in the first place. We need to challenge why we are behaving this way and are okay with, children working in sweatshops, and why we are okay with these methods of production, and also why we are and also what we allow in markets in the first place, so that when we go and enter into politics and we have a democratic vote, that we approach it from the position of, okay, what is acceptable behavior in a marketplace and what is unacceptable behavior in a marketplace. And this isn't even touching the ethical questions of in relation to deeper economic questions like inflation, like debt, and so much more. There's so much to consider in terms of ethics, and veganism is an inherent part of that. And veganism is the first movement in terms of the individual's development and self-consciousness towards ethical consumerism, I would argue. So there's that. And then I think that the last thing to consider is that veganism as a political movement is something which requires, as Mike the Vegan said, gumption. It requires an individual to have fortitude and the ability to reject the social norm. People who are socialists are usually champagne socialists. People who are socialists are usually just like people who put socialist in that Instagram bio, but none of them actually change their life. Vegans have to change their lives. For you to be a vegan, like actually be a vegan, you need to change your behavior. For you to be a socialist, you need to do the exact same thing. And that's something that vegans have that many socialists do not. And I think that veganism is the first step in terms of ethical consumerism to move towards vegan market environment. Socialist market environment and an equal market environment, but also the ethical foundations of socialism are one and the same as veganism. So if we had a perfectly socialist society, quote unquote, a one that was considering people equally but then exploits animals, we haven't met the ethical criteria that is at the heart and the foundation of socialism. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. There's one of them. No, I'm not wrong, NPC. I think it's a matter of preference in some respects, but it really is easy. I mean, you don't need blue cheese or meat like in your life at all anyway. And I was a massive meathead. Like, so I loved meat, dairy, and eggs and stuff. So I'm not gonna be like told like, oh my god, like it's so hard. It's like, no, like get over yourself. Like, look, even if it didn't taste as nice, like get over yourself. Have a bean chili, and like most of like what you taste is actually like salt, sugar, fat. Like, well, not fat really, but like fat distributes like flavor. Like, and most of the things that we use for flavorings are, you know, plant products anyway. So like, yeah, I don't think it's not hard. It's easy. In terms of like preferences as well. Like, I think that people just don't expand their palates. They live in like dogmatic, like they think that the 5 animals that they eat are the foundation of a diet, when like there's like and like people haven't even tried like some of the most basic plant foods. So like there's like 250,000 edible plants or something. So nah. Debate infrared on what? I don't think I've seen anything by infrared. Thoughts on Jordan Peterson? I don't know, he's got some good stuff. He's got some bad stuff. I think that his stuff on veganism is terrible. I think that he's got some interesting arguments in terms of Jungian psychology and a Nietzschean position. I think that he's incredibly well educated, and that some of his stuff's insightful and comes to some very, you know, starkly similar conclusions to me. But then his thoughts on hierarchy and its relation to like natural hierarchies and a material connection, I think is just Jungian dogmatism. And it's basically written as dogmatism in Jung, where he's like, there must be a connection between, you know, the psyche and the brain, but he's like, who knows what it is? And it's like, well, why are you assuming the connection? He's like, we must assume a physical cause, and it's like, well, no, we don't need to assume the physical cause. So, yeah. Doesn't ethics progressing debunk any idea that it's objective? Absolutely not. There is a separation between objective and there's a separation between objective and absolute or complete. Look at it like this. Physics is objective. Physics progressives. Does that mean that it's not objective? Absolutely, of course not. Like, physics is still, like, Newtonian physics was objective. It's just wrong. It's like it's not 100% accurate. It's not 100% true, but it got some things right, and so the truth from that is preserved and then carries on to the next, you know, the next theory. If it wasn't for Newtonian physics, we wouldn't have got relativity. If it wasn't for relativity, we wouldn't have got quantum mechanics and like, you know, QED and stuff. So like, this is the realization that like something progressing is the development of our knowledge, not necessarily the development of the thing itself. There was a right and a wrong response to a given scenario. Your knowledge of that right and wrong response is separate from the actual ontology of that being, the actual occurrence of that thing. It's like the structure of an atom is a certain way, or the structure of physical reality is a certain way. Our knowledge of that structure is not the same as that structure. It is in reference to it. It's an analysis. It's an investigation. And so yeah, you can have physics is objective. It's just not complete. And it's the same thing with ethics. What would Hegel say about the current prices of GPUs? I think that he would be as sad as all of us. Roughly what percentage of beers are vegan? Honestly, like, I would say a solid like 60-70%, like even more. Depends on what you mean by vegan beers. Belgian beers almost exclusively are vegan. Purity laws, same in Germany. almost all of their beers are vegan. Anything under the Belgian and German purity laws, it's usually really easy to find out if it's vegan, because if it's not got animal products in and it's under those laws, then it's vegan. So that's great. And I mean, that I'm not going to lie, they're some of the best beers out there. On the other hand, some of the more popular beers aren't vegan. I think like Foster's and stuff isn't vegan, but then some of the other popular beers are vegan. Like, for example, Stella, that's vegan. I don't know, like I think Peroni's vegan. I'm trying to think of other trying to think of something I would see in a pub that would necessarily be like, I think Coors Light, Budweiser, they're vegan. Like honestly, like loads is vegan. Like the majority, I would say, is vegan easily. It's usually like specialty stuff, like maybe like milky stouts and stuff, or like stuff that's brewed with lactose, so it's like really thick. A lot of those are on vegan, but the crispy kind of beers, they're usually vegan, so long as they've had like they're not either filtered with isinglass or they've been filtered. Yeah, as long as they haven't been really filtered with isinglass, a lot of the time they're vegan. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for the donation. Open invitation to PP to talk ethics and veganism with me. Non-debate format, explanatory. Help me overcome my objections to veganism and get me on board with your ethics. Or through your Discord can host. Absolutely, Walt. I'm 100% game. Just add us on Arthuria and we'll set it up. Yeah. Thank you very much for the donation. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, because of the way that YouTube's working, I'm gonna lose 30% of that, because they're gonna tax me 30% because I couldn't get my tax info in time. And even though I'm not an American citizen, thank you, YouTube, for that. Apologies if you talked to me about this before, but what is the rationale for veganism or vegetarianism? Why can't we use animal products like dairy and eggs, etc., be symbiotic? Okay, 100% understand why you would have that contention, Avi. So, thank you for your question. Okay, so here's the thing. For a cow to produce milk, it needs to be pregnant. Now, for you to drink that milk, the calf can't drink it. So, if you are impregnating cows, you are the cows are usually artificially inseminated, for one, which means that they are like forcefully inseminated, where someone basically puts their hand inside of a cow's vagina with semen, and it's an awful process, and they use basically a giant metal restraint, which is it's just awful. And so there's an act of sexual exploitation there, forcing an individual to be pregnant so that you can get a product from them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then the baby cow, the calf. The calf is non-profitable. So the calf, if it drinks the milk, will grow up into a cow, and the only way that could be profitable is if it was going to be killed and sold for food or leather or something, some sort of animal product. But since that's not what they want the milk, it's usually either killed, like in the UK, they used to kill them instantly. Now they are raising them to a certain point and selling them killing them very young, because we essentially, a lot of campaign stopped them killing the calves at a young age, but the essentially still do kill them at a very young age. They all die. They all get killed. Then they, that's it really. Like, there is the fact that you will always, this is the reality. There's no such thing as a vegetarian industry. When a cow
donated £5. Welcome back, PP. Have you seen Abigail Thorne's Philosophy Tube new video on veganism, Rawls' veil of ignorance and doxastic anxiety? Can't go wrong with a nice vegan Henneken beer.
No, well, thank you very much for your donation.
Soyo donated £5. got any debates planned?
I'll get to that in a second. O'Neill, thank you very much for your donation. I haven't seen that yet. I was planning on responding to it. I heard there's some bad stuff in that, so I've got to check that out. But I'll check out our video. And yeah, Heineken's vegan now, isn't it? And so's Newcastle Brown Ale, which is owned by Heineken. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And have I got any debates planned? Yes, with Destiny on capitalism versus socialist economics. And I'm getting Jeremy involved, who is a capitalist economist and economics postgrad. So, yeah, that should be really interesting, I think. So, yeah, that's coming soon. And just back on to the point about dairy cows. So, essentially, there is no such thing as a vegetarian industry. All of the vegetarian industries end up killing their animals because they're economically unviable. Like, if you birth an animal to milk it, if you birth an animal so you can get milk, it's either going to get killed or it's going to get raised as a dairy cow. If it gets raised as a dairy cow, at the age of 5, it will be, I think it's between 5 and 10, it's sent to slaughter. So it's sent to slaughter about a quarter of the way through its lifespan because it's spent. It can't produce milk anymore, and so is unprofitable, or it doesn't produce enough milk to be profitable, and so is killed anyway. So when you support dairy, there is no difference between dairy is beef. Like the majority of a mass amount of beef comes from dairy cows. And it comes from dairy cows because dairy cows exist to be essentially consumed. That they're objects for use value. They're not given consideration in themselves. And the calves are killed. The forced sexual exploitation of the animal themselves. And they're kept in horribly cramped, confined conditions, and they're usually treated horrible in of themselves. But even when it's non-abusive, it still requires their exploitation. It requires you to take from them their milk. It cause them sexually exploit them. Essentially make sure that the calf can't consume the milk that you want, and then this a lot of the time leads to the calf being killed. And like the calf being taken away from its mother. Many people argue that cows have strong maternal instincts and so feel, even suffering in relation to the cow from seeing the calf being taken. And there is actually video footage of cows chasing after their calves when they're being taken and trying to protect their calves and hide them and stuff like that. So you can't even see that. And then eggs. Well, eggs, here's the thing. You can't decide, and it's the same with cows actually, you can't decide whether it's going to be a male or a female who's born out of an egg or any form of pregnancy, and so what happens is all of the males are separated at birth. This is just to produce the egg-laying hens. All of the males are separated at birth and put in a blender and killed, and when they're not blended, they're gassed. They are killed in some way, shape or form. Sometimes they're just thrown in the bin alive. Even there's videos of that happening. Horrific animal abuse. So yeah, every time you buy anything related to chickens, whether it's an egg or whether it's chicken itself, it usually relates to, essentially it's either the chicken's getting killed or a baby male has been killed because it was born the wrong sex. I think I said gender. I think replace what I said before with sex because that's more accurate. Chickens don't really have gender. Yeah, so like the sex, you can't choose the sex of the chick, and then the chickens themselves, like the ones that are raised to become egg-laying hens, are placed in cramped environments. If they're caged hens, they won't even have enough space to open their wings, and that is an incredibly frustrating for chickens. It's a very natural behavior, and it's something that they want to do. If they are kept in quote unquote free range, a lot of the time they are in extremely cramped conditions on floors that are filled with feces, and still to the point in which there are 10,000 chickens around them. Chickens can only adapt to a pecking order of about up to 100 chickens, and so this causes them extreme stress, and so they literally essentially go insane and start cannibalizing each other and stuff. Like, it's awful. Start like fighting and murdering each other. They can't really cope with the scenario. So what we do to solve that is we slice their beaks off, which is quite like a fingernail in terms of sensitivity, like the fingernail bed. We slice their beaks off without anesthesia with a hot knife, and which can become infected. They're not given, but that, you know, we put antibiotics in that food, don't we? Which we then consume. Well, that's the human side of things. And then we put them in the pitch black, and that stops them from fighting. And then all of those chickens, once they're spent and they can't produce, like when those hens are spent and they can't produce eggs anymore, they are then sent to slaughter as well. And sometimes it's even 10,000 at a time because they're unprofitable. Like an area for Tyson Foods has become unprofitable, like this warehouse. And so rather than making a judgment on like aspects of that warehouse, they just kill every chicken in that warehouse and get a fresh batch in. That is how this all works. There is no such thing as a vegetarian industry. All of the animals get killed. And even if there was, it would be economically impossible to sustain an industry which was vegetarian, because you would end up with countless hordes of spent animals that all they do is consume your food, consume food that you pay for and earn you no money. And so unless you can find me a situation where someone is absolutely cool with having like 300 spent chickens and like 10 like you know chickens producing eggs, and in this they also have loads of males, maybe 150 extra males as well, essentially just chilling, also eating and costing money, and it's all done in a way that is the chicken themselves haven't been, the eggs, they're not protective over them. We've waited long enough so that they know that they're not fertile and discard them. And then we also supplement calcium into their diets because their bones are becoming so weak from the calcium that they're using to produce these eggs. Like there is literally, like, it is just the worst, right? When the vegetarianism is an empty concept, which is why veganism, it's an empty reality. Like there is nothing in it. The end of vegetarianism is veganism. That's why veganism is the way it is. It's the first three letters, and the last two. It's the beginning and the end of vegetarianism, the conceptual beginning and the end of vegetarianism. So yeah, 100%, definitely just like vegetarianism is just cancer. Like there is nothing, like vegetarianism is for people usually who either want to help and don't understand it, which is fair enough. Like, people don't necessarily understand the harm that's being perpetuated, or it's for people who do understand and just want to be edgy and different from meat eaters. And that's it. Yeah. But thanks for your question. I don't know. Did I go a little bit hard there? When I saw the title of this stream, a small part of me wondered if PP was going to post a "What I Eat in a Day" video to cheer up Foot Soldier. I'm just peddling. I'm like, hey guys, got my carbs. Yeah, I do find that with vegetarians a lot, that they do just repeat, like, this is, it's better than meat, better than if I ate meat. And it's like, not really. Still absolutely atrocious. Pretty much all producing meat. Yeah, we've recently just put in an animal welfare law. Actually, animals are finally recognised in the UK legally as sentient. I have to double check the ramifications on that, and I'll be doing a video on that. Germany and Spain will ban all chick culling by 2022. Well, there goes their dairy industry. It'll just be imported eggs then, though. They'll just start importing, and people will buy them imported. It's kind of like how they don't allow for the production of cannabis in Holland, I think, but then, somehow it ends up in the shops anyway. There's no donation pop-ups on the screen. I don't know why. One second. I'm going to check out my alert box. Donations. Is there a reason why this isn't popping up? Wait a minute. That's probably why. It should work now. It should work now. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it done. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for letting us know. Mark, it's really appreciated. Do indigenous people who live off the land cultures have an obligation to go vegan? Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Just as, you know, cultures who oppress women around the world have an obligation to stop doing that, just as, you know, cultures like South African culture, just because it was South Africa doesn't mean apartheid was okay. So absolutely, indigenous people should go vegan. And, you know, as the ethical concepts progress, and hopefully within their language community and their ethical community, they will come to agree with me that the exploitation of animals, no matter how they try to romanticize it, is not justified. So yeah, indigenous people, you know, this whole indigenous hunting rights thing, look, nah, stop hunting. Like, I'm not going to tell you that, like, look, if it's their land, it's their land. They can do what they want on their land if it's their own nation and their own laws. If it's, on the other hand, part of, let's say, Britain or Australia or, you know, America and the laws of the United States, in my opinion, once we have an overall democratic majority that agrees that animal life is ethically considerable, we should put through laws that ban the exploitation and murder of sentient beings. And that applies to everyone. Just as I would say indigenous people, or like, let's take, for example, let's go back way further than this. Let's go somewhere like, let's say Romans were to pop up in Italy, and let's say, you know, they wanted to kill people in the Colosseum. It's not just because it's a different culture doesn't mean it's okay. So yeah, yeah, pretty much. Oat milk is probably the best for the environment, I would imagine, to be honest. Or soy milk. Soy milk's really like, soy's actually like really quite a hardy, like, non-water consuming plant. It's not like, soy's not really a problem in itself. The problem with soy is how much we are having to produce to feed animals a lot of the time. It's like 70 to 90% is fed to animals. Yeah, and that's very true. Super vegan, like that, there is as well, like, people need to consider cows and chickens are bred in certain ways which produces, you know, negative health consequences, especially for chickens who end up collapsing from that, like, when they end up having bones broken from the overproduction of eggs, because of the calcium being, you know, drained from that system. And you know, and for, you know, beef, like, not beef, for chicken, you know, for ones that are being used from the meat industry, become so heavy and so large so quickly that they essentially can't support themselves and end up, you know, lying in shit for days in the dark with no beak, suffering in agony, feeling incredibly stressed to the point in which they start losing their feathers until they're killed incredibly young. It's honestly, it is there is not an argument at all for meat, dairy, and eggs. There is just none. Like, there's no ethical argument for it. Yeah, it doesn't. It's beyond sense that we could even contemplate that there is an ethical position for these products at this point. But, you know, it's where we are. Free range is a marketing buzzword. I completely agree. It's like the soy milk that's grown in Europe. Yeah, that makes sense, man. Oh, thanks, Space Demon. I'm glad you like the beard. That's nice. Take that, Thought Slime. I definitely want to talk to Thought Slime. I really want to talk to Thought Slime. Tell Thought Slime to talk to me. Damn it, Thought Slime. Veganism means to reduce animal exploitation as far as possible and practicable, and therefore in many circumstances indigenous practices no, they're not really. I mean, like, let's be honest, if people are having to kill animals to survive, then we should probably be helping them. So, like, if someone is in such a dire circumstance that practices require them to exploit others, then we should be stepping in as developed nations to aid them. Like, it's not vegan. It's not, like, unless it's vegan if look, if you're in a plane crash in the Andes kind of situation and you have to eat someone else, that's the kind of ethics that we're talking about here. Like, the ethical situation is do it or die. Like, that that's when it becomes vegan. Like, but if we're saying, like, oh, well, like, it's that culture, I don't give a shit. To be frank. Like, it's really sad that it's that culture. It's also my culture and everyone else's culture around the world to eat animals. I don't care. Like, if I can stop it, and it was culturally, like I get called, like, effeminate and, like, understood to be, less masculine, and my whole identity is called into question in my society. It's still the right thing. I still do it. If your, spiritual practices involve animal exploitation, well, then you don't have a very good relationship with the divine, and that needs to change. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna listen to that, like, absolute bollocks. I don't really care. I don't care if indigenous people think that they're justified. They're not. I don't think that culture doesn't justify exploitation. Let's stop exploiting women globally. Let's stop exploiting, other races globally. Let's really just perpetuate the notions of equality, which we have really known to be correct for the last 300 years from which they've been developing. So yeah, or even longer. So yeah. Like fox hunting's cultural. Yeah, and like that's the thing. Ban that in the UK. It's absolutely wrong. So yeah. That's sorry, that was probably a bit spicy. Have I watched Happy Pair? Yeah, the Happy Pair. Yeah, I have, man. Like, they're so unbelievably happy, actually. Very, like, happy Irishmen. Like, they're like twins, aren't they? A good channel, actually. I do think they use honey, though. That needs to stop. People do really romanticize tradition. But I'm sure you spoke to their. But I'm sure if you spoke to their ancestor, they would be less attached to the brutality needed to survive. I think that's kind of it. I think, like, obviously there's a spiritual and religious aspect to it, but, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, religion doesn't justify exploitation either. Does anyone think that we should go back to persecuting homosexuals because it's Christianity? Would anyone be willing to make that argument? Because that's when I'll start listening to, but indigenous culture though. And until people start making those arguments and I'll start calling them disgusting and wrong, I'm not really going to listen to the woke buzzword kind of thing about it. It's like, all right, well, you're just an exploitative vegan and you just don't understand that indigenous people have rights and you need to respect them. It's like, you don't know anything about indigenous people. You don't know anything about that culture and the heritage and the hardships. All you really know is that, like, it's like good to respect indigenous people in 2021. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, like, absolutely be against the exploitation of indigenous populations, which have happened through empiricism and colonialism and some horrible stuff throughout history, and we definitely need to remedy some of the harms that have been done, especially like the Aborigine population in Australia, or like the Native Americans in the United States. What happened historically is absolutely atrocious, and we really need to, do what we can to make that situation better and show that it was horribly racist and prejudiced and led to the dissolution and destruction of entire cultures. And yeah, like, it's awful. But at the same time, that doesn't mean going to the point in which we say, right, I'm sorry that what we did to you was wrong, now you've got a free pass to harm another, because then that defeats the point. The reason that we are being considerate to indigenous populations in the first place is the recognition of equality, and it's the same equality that they must recognize themselves. So yeah, don't hurt animals because it's wrong. Don't hurt indigenous people because it's wrong. So indigenous people shouldn't hurt animals for the same reason we don't hurt them. So yeah. They are causing less harm than me as a consumerist, vegan, crop deaths, etc. Well, one, that's like debatable, because I think a lot of indigenous people still, like, dependent, like, on where they actually are consuming products that are produced industrially. And then, like, I don't think that they all necessarily live in non-industrial, like, areas that totally live off the land and so on. But even when they do, even if they are causing less overall harm, it doesn't I'm not a utilitarian. I don't think that your duties are determined, like, look, if I live the life of a saint, right, and let's say I produce a lot of good in the world, but once a year I go out and kill children, would it justify my killing of those children if I was a good person? Or like 364 other days of the year? No, it wouldn't. It would still, killing children would still be wrong. Same thing with killing animals. They can grow plants if they're capable. Look, if they're living off the land anyway, the majority of their diet will probably be plant based. If it's not, then it's not sustainable in anyways. And if they're totally dependent upon hunting animals, then we should step in and help them out, because it's still wrong. And we should work towards, reducing crop deaths and ultimately trying to eliminate animal suffering from our modes of production, which is an entirely separate issue in relation to capitalism. And I think absolutely can be done. Vertical farming, a variation of farming methods such as permaculture and so on to reduce the uses of pesticides. These are arguments that I think vegans are making, to be entirely honest with you. Vegan, was it Earthland Ed, was even at talks at farming conferences and stuff talking about this sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't think that, look, you have access to a supermarket where you buy some potatoes. That's what you have access to. If you have to do it, you can't grow your own potatoes. Yeah, that's not as good as, it mightn't be as good as growing your own, but that's what you've got to do. And that's what most people have to do. Buy food. Where do they buy food? Well, supermarkets, and the way that the supermarkets get food is from food producers. Now, should we try to make food production more ethical? Absolutely. One way, ban animal agriculture, remove animal agriculture, boycott animal agriculture, destroy it. Once that's gone, that's going to massively reduce crop deaths. It's going to massively reduce direct animal deaths. It's going to massively reduce animal exploitation and suffering from the literal torturous environments that they're put in. And ultimately what we're left with is the necessary, the unavoidable deaths that are that happen from simply being alive. I don't think we're going to be able to reduce all deaths in relation to crop production. It's just not going to be possible. It's going to be we can massively minimize it. Probably won't be able to reduce it all. But that's the most that we can do. The most good that we can do. It's our duty. We are doing our duty. We are fulfilling our obligations. Now, if you're in a circumstance where you could do no harm at all, and you are deliberately doing harm, but it is something that you could avoid, your duties are separate. Look at it like this. Your duty as someone, let's say you are a high-ranking member of the Nazi party in Nazi Germany, and you have the opportunity to stop Hitler and end the war, right? And then let's say someone else is a low-ranking member of the Nazi party and is, working as a guard outside. Now, you might be aware enough that this is all wrong. And you might reduce the numbers of, let's say, people heading for extermination camps or something like that. Maybe you're you're part of that Operation Valkyrie or something, and you're trying to bring it to an end. Now, or maybe that's the thing. Maybe you've got the opportunity to join Operation Valkyrie. Now, it's not in your interest to join Operation Valkyrie to kill Hitler, but you think that you can do some good where you are, but it's less convenient for you to bring an end to the Holocaust. Now, would you be justified for your own convenience in not bringing an end to the Holocaust? Now, you might be better than the low-ranking Nazis beneath you, but that's not the standard you're judged by. And also, even if let's even take it something like this. Let's say someone who's imprisoned by the Nazis and has no power at all, but would end the Holocaust. Are they a worse person for not ending the Holocaust than the person who maybe saves one or two people from the Holocaust, but ultimately, perpetuates it and supports it in their day-to-day life when they could have done more? They have the possibility of action and doing more, but they maintain the status quo or slightly reduce it, whilst you exist in prison and are unable to act. Are you a less ethical person? I honestly think that utilitarianism has to be the dumbest, stupidest, worst philosophy ever. I don't know why anyone goes utilitarian. It's just an understanding that, okay, consequences are associated with value. I get it. The experience of the world is in consequence to our ethical decisions. So when we're making ethical decisions, it's in relation to the consequences. Of course, no deontologist thinks otherwise. Well, actually, that's a lie. Some of them do, but they're wrong as well. But you can appreciate consequences and understand your duties and obligations are not determined by the status quo. This is my issue with Vosh. It's if you don't do anything that makes things worse, then you are not a bad person or not doing anything wrong, or it totally misses the point of, if you're a socialist in capitalism, your obligations are different to what a capitalist in capitalism obligations are. You've understood the system to be morally defect, so you seek to change the system. You can't be a socialist in capitalism and act as a capitalist. These are the kind of like scenarios. I don't know if I'm like totally missing the point here, but no, like maybe this is a bit of a rant, but like absolutely not. Like I do not believe that one's moral obligations are directly tied to the consequences of, let's say, that consumption. Like
Donald
yeah.
Anderson
Anyway,
donated £5.
thank you very much, Donald. I really appreciate the donation. Thank you. I missed you so much, brother. Where have you been? I've said it about 3 times, so I'm not going to say it again. Essentially, I've had a lot on, and a lot of things that have prevented us from being here, really, and I've just been like incredibly burnt out. So, but yeah, I'm glad to be back. I'm very glad to be back. How would you go about introducing veganism to non-vegans that don't study philosophy? Just ask them like, what's more important, taste or life? Earthland Ed does that, and I think I would recommend checking out Earthland Ed's methods in terms of like the Socratic method, the questions he asks people. That's the kind of way that I would go about introducing non-vegans to veganism who haven't studied philosophy. Just ask them ethical questions, like, do you think that it's okay to exploit people? Check out my street debates. I just say like I typically ask questions like you know, like I was at Pride, I was like, well, what are we here for? And then like, you know, you get them to go like equality, and it's like, right, so what's equality? And it's like the consideration of everyone. Do you think that, you know, what an individual looks like matters? Like, no. Like, what about how smart an individual is? You know, what about like whether an individual can talk? What about whether an individual has is from a different place? What if like, you know, they what if that, you know, just they basically get to the point, like do marginal cases, the argument for marginal cases, like ask them what is a relevant ethical consideration and why. And when people say like intelligence, then just go, well, what about people with learning disabilities? And then when they say like, well, okay, well, oh god, are you okay, Charlie? And then go like, well, what about language? And they say like, well, what about people who've got like, let's say, level 3 autism and are non-verbal? Are they okay to kill? And just go marginal cases with it is probably what I would recommend. But thanks for the question. You want to debate, you don't have to, you just honestly, if Akami, if you want to debate, nice to see you, vegan foot soldier. But Akami, if you do want to debate, just add us, like we'll organize it. Like add us on Discord. If you don't have a bike and Sprite smoothie, you ain't a vegan, bro. That's right. Carbs. Nah, man. I actually was talking about that for the most part at the start. Nice to see you here, vegan foot soldier. I think your video was right and wrong in like different ways. Like I think that the main things that, like, one, I think that vegan YouTube separate to plant-based YouTube, and like that was very much a plant-based sort of scene, but then there was more community, but I think that we're still in our infancy. I don't think that vegan YouTube's dead. I think that kind of culture in vegan YouTube has died, and that's probably in some respects a good thing, but in other respects, it's sad to see it not getting talked about as much in some ways. But ultimately, we're on the right path. And I think that you did wrong in showing Unnatural Vegan as like vegan YouTube now. Because Unnatural Vegan was annoying back then. I remember I being there back then. So I was there. So, what's my opinion on anarchism now? Honestly, I need to read more anarchism before I can. It depends on what you decide, like what would define anarchism as. I'm certainly much closer to a libertarian socialist than anything else, I would say. Should we intervene in nature to reduce wild animal suffering? Well, honestly, I used to think no, but after talking to David Pierce, I think that eventually yes, we probably should. Yeah, but at the minute, I would suggest just trying to stop causing suffering and producing more harm before we start interfering with nature. I'm actually part of a Native American Indian Apache / mission, and I have cousins and family members who eat animals. What should I say to them when I meet them for the first time? Oh my god, like I have no idea. Other than like hello. I would probably say, like for the first time, I don't know whether bringing it up the first time you meet would be wise, but just like saying like there's like, the progression of your culture. You don't need, like, look, your culture doesn't have to be defined by its historical elimination by the United States. Like, just because the United States saw fit to take your land and your rights away from you, to disintegrate your culture, to historically interrupt your culture, doesn't mean that's what your culture is. When the United States done that to your culture, that was what your culture was. That doesn't mean your culture must always be that. Don't let the United States define your culture as, always a regressive and an exploitative. That is in and of itself a racist concept, a prejudiced concept. The Native American culture, very well, if having been left to develop, may be a vegan culture. And I would argue that a rational individual who understands the relationship with nature as to be harmonious, as a Native Americans do, from what I'm aware, would come to realize that the production and consumption of animal products is harmful to nature, and that the value of nature exists in sentient beings, and so the killing unnecessarily of animals is against your cultural values. And so the logical progression of your culture moves into veganism very nicely. And I would maybe argue that and just say, like, if you're looking to say that our culture, must always be like what our ancestors defined it as, ask why your ancestors get to define what you do over, what you think is right. You have just as much right to define your culture as your ancestors did. You understand it. You understand the concepts. You have a mind of your own, and don't let no dead guy tell you how you're going to live your life. If he's telling you how to do it wrong, and then you have just as much right to that culture and that how to define your culture. And in relation to the historicity in terms of, or like the historical nature of how you understand your culture, don't let it be defined by when the United States, try to take it from you. Like, the ability to progress and better your culture is your right as a citizen of it, and that can never be taken from you. So yeah, I hope that helps. You'd want to, are you sure? What was it? How would you like to give that out? I will send you the full cost of the really? Yeah, absolutely. If you want to do that, Jeremy, you can absolutely do that. So guys, Jeremy Jeezy is offering to donate one of the courses that I've produced to the stream. So yeah, if he wants to do that, that is entirely up to you, Jeremy. It's very nice of you, very kind. And yeah, we're gonna have to work out who will get it. Who's gonna get the course? We've got 92 viewers. How we're gonna work out who would get this course? You can obviously, Jeremy, there's no pressure. Like, you don't have to do that. I appreciate it, obviously, very much. And also, in the next stream, I'll be announcing the winner of the raffle. I do remember that raffle, by the way, guys, and I have the list of entries. So that'll be getting announced in the next stream. But yeah, we're going to be... Ooh, how are we going to do this? Any suggestions, guys? How will we decide who gets a free course? An introduction to Western philosophy. How are we going to do this? Any philosophy book that you would recommend I read? Depends on what you're after in philosophy, man. Is there anything you're interested in? I'd love to have a short interview with you for my thesis. Any way to set this up? I do one-on-one sections through Patreon. We could set it up. But I mean, if it's like, obviously me. So yeah, yeah, Patreon, really. Moi, please. How we're gonna do this? Jeremy, do you have any? Just pick a number between 1 and 100. I mean, if Jeremy wants to pick, I mean, Jeremy is the person that is paying for the course. I mean, Jeremy, that's very, very, very generous of you. Oh yeah, my chat's not on the stream. Thank you very much, Duma. I don't know why I took 2 hours to see this. Let's see if we can just move this. There we go. I should probably move this way a little bit and then change the color so that you can actually see the words. Font settings. Black. There we go. That should do it. How do I go buy your course? The course is in the description. It's the last day of the sale. I will say that, guys, because I think, like I said, I'm doing a pre-sale. It's launched now, so this is the last day of the sale. There is no more sales after today. I nominate Guido. The person who has been vegan the longest. Me. What are my views on polygamy? Like polyamory, I suppose, because like polygamy and marriage and stuff, I think it's just an extension from polyamory. I don't think it's inherently wrong. I think that it's probably very difficult, and there's no real social structures that would like be able to essentially define social roles. I could see it as it's not unethical or anything. I would just say that it's probably difficult and more difficult than a normal relationship to balance atypically. Yeah. You know, actually, I think that the color of the chat now at black is actually probably harder to read in some respects than when it was white, which is strange. Let's try and make it purple. Does that help? I don't know how to, you know, I'm not gonna lie. Like, what's Jeremy said? Let's see. I honestly have no idea. Is there like a role / function on YouTube? I don't think there is a role / function on YouTube, is there? I think like you can do it through like Streamlabs. One second. See if I can get a way to like raffle out this course, guys. Jeremy, that is very, very generous of you. Definitely did not have to do this. Where's Streamlabs? I think there's a way to do this. Christ. What would be a good way to do this? Okay. Has anyone got any ideas? I need some like creativity here. I was gonna have him just pick someone in chat, like, but Jeremy, do you want to pick someone in chat? Just pick someone. Beg Jeremy, go. Like, if you look, everyone, make your case to Jeremy right now for why you deserve the course, and then Jeremy can pick you. There we go. That's the next 5 minutes. You got five minutes for you to make your case. You've got until 10:11 to make a case of why the course should be yours. And if Jeremy sees you as the most deserving, then that's Jeremy's position. And that's then, yeah. Can you do just add giveaway? I would look. I think it's like, because Streamlabs has changed since I was last year. Ah. Yeah, we're just gonna do it that way. Just make your case, and then Jeremy will tell us, and then we'll arrange it. Jeremy, be ruthless. Be absolutely ruthless. Right, where Helma? I've lost the chat. Okay. Why don't people appeal based on what they would put it to use for, and Jeremy pick? Well, that's a way to argue. Fight to the death. Now there you see. Now that person definitely needs the course. If you give it to me, I'll donate it on stream and give it to someone else. 1 second, I'm just reading this. What was that Carter Kaufman say there? What does interest me there, mate? I can't see what you've actually said, so I don't know what I'm responding to. Does art interest you? Oh, not that. I've totally misread that. Does yeah, art interests us. Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, you're based even though you're a capitalist. I've seen that. Oh, Queero wins. Right, well, there we go. Queero. Right. Messages on Discord, Queero, your email and stuff, and I'll add you to the school. And Jeremy, if you just purchase it, I'll just give it to Queero. Yeah, so just Queero, join the Discord. I'll send you a Discord link, or you can email us or something if you prefer, and I'll add you in. 1 second, invite people to Discord. There we go. Generate link. Copy. Right. And yeah, follow that link, man, and just add us on Discord. Queero, if you just want to just DM'd me. Okay, I was just going to make sure that it actually was you and that there wasn't someone sneakily like doing that. Oh, thank you very much for the donation, Monstar. That's really appreciated. Veganism is the moral baseline. We need more voices to speak up for the animals. Join us at Animal Rights Advocates on Discord. I'll check it out, man. I'll 100% check it out, and we definitely do need more people to fight for the animals. 100%. I'll right. I'll add you after the stream there. That's very nice of you, Jeremy. You're too kind. You're too kind. I'll use it to make a case against it and push the world into chaos. I like that. Good to see you back, PP. Keep on smiling. Thanks, man. It's nice to be back. Planning on being here a lot more in June and hopefully July and, onwards. So, yeah. Actually, I'm probably going to stay. It's been 2 hours now. probably stay for another 10 more minutes, and then we'll call it. So if you do have a question, drop it into chat, and I'll do my best to answer. And obviously, thank you everyone who's donated. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be back, guys. It really is good to be back. I need to get some debates on the go. I'm like proper clamoring for a debate. I need a debate, like a good solid debate though, like a debate there where I actually talk about something and actually make a difference. Not a debate where it's just awful. That or someone who's high profile, so that I can go, well, wait a minute, stop telling people to do nasty things. So yeah. Why do you so fervently support the ideas of reformism when it has never successfully overthrown the bourgeois state? Neither's revolutionism, if that's the metric. But I support reformism because I believe, well, from the Hegelian argument that revolution leads to the destruction of the institutions that have convinced you to revolt, and so you end up actually producing either the same state again or its negation. And what can I say? That's exactly what keeps happening. I want to see genuine, real change, and I want to see the rational progression of our ethical institutions. So yeah. Debate a Marxist-Leninist like Hakeem. 100% would. Hakeem will not debate me though. So yeah. Hakeem, if you see this for like the millionth time, debate me. Stop being bad at ethics. Yeah. Speak with Dr. David D. Friedman. Yeah, is he the capitalist he had an argument on modern day debates? I'm gonna have, like, guys, if you wanted to debate or discuss with anyone, please go and drop this in the suggestions on Discord, like the what's it called? What's the section called again? It's if you drop it in a video request on Discord. And that way I will see the video request. So if there is someone you want us to debate, if there is a debate that you want to have with me, like at me on Discord, and if I've accepted the debate, do say like, this is, such and such from YouTube. You said you were game to debate. Yeah, just so I know that I know it's there. That'll like really help. Oh, hello, vegan gays. Nice to be here. Did you hear that vegan YouTube is dead? Yeah, like Jeremy being the most wholesome and sweet of them filthy capitalists. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Jeremy, but we will not spare you during the glorious revolution, but know that you died a good man. I am joking, guys. Please, violent revolution is wrong. We've talked about this. But yeah, like, would have been good to hear this in real time. Well, that's time isn't real, vegan gays. That's what you got to remember. Time is a construction. Well, it's actually a technology produced by clock companies to sell clocks. It's not real. So, thank you for the donation, Wicked Energy. Could you debate Rucker about Israel, Palestine, or objectivism? He's an objectivist. I put the video request already. Yeah, what's this about? Israel and Palestine? I'll check it out, like 100%. Let's try and check it out. Why is that such a tiny box? Look at that tiny box. That's better. Hakeem is a revisionist Marxist. I don't think he represents Marxism accurately. Well, maybe not. I can't... Look, I'm not going to say he does or he doesn't. From what I haven't seen, I don't think he said anything that's... I mean, he's a Leninist more than anything. That's what I get from Hakeem. Very much supports Lenin. Man didn't want to collab with us little vegan YouTubers back in the day, and he's moaning about the collabs. Cheeky bugger. I don't know, man. I think, like, look, like, I think that he's got one good point. I think that, like, he's right. Well, actually, look, he had quite a few good points, to be honest, Vegan Foot Soldier, in that. I think there is a issue with the vegan community, but I just think that we need to be, really what we need to do is, like, separate vegan and plant-based in terms of the community. Do you know what I mean? That's the only real like thing I would say on that. Like that's the biggest thing. What do you think about Jordan Peterson? Did Vosh reinforce his argument about the existence of postmodern neo-Marxists? Honestly, I think Jordan Peterson has some interesting points. I think he's wrong about veganism. I think that he ties things to unnecessarily to materialism. Like he has to make like evolutionary arguments and stuff like that in relation to like the psyche, which I think is always like post hoc anyway. And he inherits that from Jung. I think that still he's quite insightful and he has some really good points. I think some of the stuff that he says is bad and wrong, but a lot of the stuff that he says is interesting and, you know, and worth checking out. I think that that Vosh definitely is a postmodern neo-Marxist. Like the reality is that like what Vosh like really represents and like I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about Vosh, and yet here I am. Actually, I think I even promised Laura. Sorry, Laura. Anyway, yeah, I think that the issue is that like for example, Jordan Peterson talks about leftists and like workers, like or like people who are just, you know, essentially lefties are a lot of the time resentful. You know, just it's not that they're angry at the inequality. They're angry at the fact that they're not on the top of the hierarchy. That's the issue. And I think that's unfortunately true a lot of the time. There is actually a lot of lefties who are just resentful. And, you know, he's a Christian, so he sees that as a negative, right? And it's not all of them. He even said, like, in that same discussion, he said there was a lot of good lefties and stuff, but he said there's a lot of them that are resentful. I think that, and then, like, you know, there's a lot of, like, clout chasing. There's a lot of people that use it as a means to an end in terms of politics, and that's all Vosh really is a politician. And so, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I did say I wasn't going to do this. I promise. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, but yeah, he's just a clout chasing politician. And that's all I'm really going to say. He panders to everyone. He basically said to commit he basically endorsed acts of terror against the United States in his Hakim debate, which I think really deserves a YouTube ban, but whatever. Anyway, he did, you know, I'm sorry, but if someone came onto my channel and started saying, what is it, like, you should start sending arms to insurrectionists in foreign countries so that they can rebel and topple governments in some sort of bloody violent revolution. And by the way, have you considered attacking American military bases or NATO bases? Kind of like the Bora Meinhof gang. Like, no. Like, how can he have a channel after that? Like, come on. I don't know. Anyway. I don't know, the community of eating fruit on a bike got really old really very quick. I completely agree. I very much agree with that. You look at the guy from 28 Days Later, good stuff. And you have to be taking the piss. You have to have been here before, like, to say that. But, you know, that is one of the better movies, though. 28 Days Later was sick. And also a solid argument for why vivisection is wrong. Am I right? Yes. But yeah, like, yeah. I don't know. I should probably just call it there before I just go on some sort of tirade again or something. The thing is, Jeremy, am I talking to Laura? Who is Laura? That's the real question. That's the real Lacanian, like, am I talking to Laura or am I talking to the conception of the big other, the person that's there just to represent another, you don't even know if Laura's there. I'm not even technically talking to you. Oh God. Jeez. This is, hello, I'm now Laura. So, What's a Laura thing to say? Ooh, what is a Laura thing to say? Lewis, you're wrong. There you go. When am I going to do a video on Frege? Honestly, I think did Rem not do videos on Frege? Rem is really into Frege. If I was going to do a video on Frege, I would probably get Rem on. I don't know Frege as well as Rem does. I don't think. So I don't know. I mean, I could do the research. He's just not someone that I'm very well read on. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out like Rem the Bath Boy for Frege. The guy knows too much on that. So yeah. Yeah, we've collabed loads. We need to collab again. Vegan gays. Yeah, we definitely do. So yeah, I'm gonna call the stream there, guys. I'm not even necessarily sure how I should respond to that. I want to be happy about being 1 second. This is something I'm not responding to this. I'm reading something separate now, guy. By the way, Craigie. I want to be happy about the vegan kind of party in Israel getting a minister of the environment and health, which enables them to push for plant-based food, animal rights, and animal welfare. But I don't know how long this new government will last, though. That's fair enough. I don't know. I need to look into that. Like, yeah, definitely have to check that out. Big PP, the big PP. I do need to be back for longer. Rem is dry but great content. Oh, I'll let him know that you think his content's great. I don't know if he's like. I think Rem is a very analytic guy. How did I manage to convince Rem to go vegan? I think that just through conversation, mostly, like calling his own. I think Rem really convinced himself after I pulled him into questions. So like I raised ethical questions, and then when he tried to answer them, I think he's convinced himself. I didn't answer your question, Ricardo Allen. Sorry, where is your question? Drop it in chat. I'll answer it, and then I'll leave. Do I meditate? No, but I probably should. Like, I think that's something that I actually should. Yeah. Does Streamlabs delete the message now if you do caps or something? Thank you very much, O'Neill. With respect to post-structuralism question, would you acknowledge that language as an institution has a failure to accurately capture out thoughts and therefore negates its objectivity? No, I would say that language comes to be as an object in relation to, as a form of equipment. It's a technology. Language is a means to an end. And so when we approach language, we approach it in respect to how it's into how it's allowing us to function and complete a function metaphysically prior to its instantiation, which would be, the overall happiness and well-being of people. So the capacity for a language to actually capture and allow us to understand reality is gauged in whether we are able to live more and more and better lives on an ontological level, which is separate from language. So yeah, that's probably how I would take that. But good question, actually. That's a solid question. Very well done. Very well done. Is Mike the Vegan your brother? Mike Vegan, Mike the Vegan is my brother. He's like, I love Mike. I love Mike. It is her real name, actually. So there you go. The complaint has been filed. So yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll get right on that. I don't have a video on the sentience hierarchy, but I probably should. I don't think I have, unless anyone knows them in chat. I have talked about the sentience hierarchy a lot and why it's wrong. But yeah, I don't think it makes sense at all. Anyway, with that, I will peace out. Excuse me. I hope you all have a lovely night. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this stream. And let me know in the comments if you think veganism is dead. Vegan YouTube is dead. So yeah, I hope you all have a nice night. And as always, try to gain some perspective. Actually, not as always, because I've been gone for a month. So as of now,